Alrighty, ladies and gentlemen, we are back with another video prediction going down this weekend. UFC Vegas 120, Mateusz Gamrot versus Quillan Salkilld. Now, this is a banger matchup here. I am really excited for this main event because you got Quillan Salkilld, who's one of the hottest prospects in the 155 division against a guy, Mateusz Gamrot, who's been in the top 10 for quite some time now. This fight is very interesting. I can't wait to predict this fight. And, we got some bangers on the card. We got some fights that are kind of buns. Like this fight between Billy and Diego, man, I think it's going to be a pretty good fight. Elkins versus Valle, good fight. Lemos versus Alexia, pretty good, pretty decent fight. Ty Miller making his return. Ty Miller, one of my favorite prospects. We got Steven Asplund, who's probably one of the best entertaining fighters on the UFC roster, making his return. Yeah, we have some decent matches. We got some pretty we got okay matchups. But before we get any further into the video, you guys, make sure you guys hit that like and subscribe button, man. Turn on notifications when you guys want to see when I upload new videos. I appreciate all you guys for liking and subscribing. And I do got a TikTok now, guys. So I will leave that, in the description below in the comments if you guys want to go check it out. But we're gonna get into these predictions. I think I'm going to be sweeping the board. Let's get into these predictions. First fight of the night: Julian Miller versus Ravena Oliveira. Start of the card. Not really interested. Ravena Oliveira is for what I've seen from Ravena Oliveira on the original scene, she was looking like a pretty decent fighter, one that's knocked out over a person who's making their debut. Fought a pretty solid competition, and then got into the UFC, losing to Lisboa, which isn't a bad loss. Then lost to Stephanie Luciano, which she just beated Spacek at UFC Serbia last weekend. Then losing to Chanel Dwyer, who's one of the best prospects in the UFC. And I did predict Dwyer to win this fight. I thought that Dwyer was going to be the better fighter. Julian Miller, she's had a decent run in the UFC. Beating Bogdan Grad. Bogdan Grad isn't your typical very good fighter. She's all right. Losing to Veronica Hardy, one of my favorite prospects in the women's division right now. Losing to Juliana Santos yet again, a pretty big prospect. Uh, Beating Ivana Pasarvik, which was all right. Then having a pretty competitive fight against Carla Judice, which listen, man, I went the distance. I was kind of very surprised. Carla Judice is a very dangerous fighter. That was even a very tough task, even going the distance with Carla Judice. Now, my initial reaction to this fight is that Julian Miller is going to win this fight, but there are some ways for Ravena Oliveira. I think Ravena Oliveira is kind of being a little bit disrespected here. Because even though I know that Miller may seem like she's gonna get the job done, which I'm actually going for in this fight, but the thing is, on top of that, it's like Ravena Oliveira. I think she's the better submit jiu-jitsu artist. Listen, when it comes to like her striking is solid. It's not that good, but at the same time, her takedowns aren't that good either. Like once you get to the ground, she can kind of reverse positions and get you on like full mount, where she can definitely submit you. She did try to lock up a few submissions in this fight with Lisboa, but the thing is, like, that's like her only really good way of winning this fight. That's her only good way. Julian Miller though, she could definitely be taken down here. I know Oliveira for sure definitely isn't really the best when it comes to like takedowns, but Julian Miller definitely does kind of load up on a lot of shots and could definitely get taken down a lot. We even saw that in her fight with Veronica Hardy. Veronica Hardy managed to land the takedowns that he wanted to in that fight. Even in a more recent fight against Ivana managed to take her around quite well in this fight. But I think that Julian Miller is going to be able to, stop the takedowns, defend the submissions if it hits to the ground. I'd see this fight majority being on the feet. Even if it's on the feet, I wouldn't necessarily say Julian Miller would knock out Ravena Oliveira, because Ravena Oliveira um and it doesn't really get knocked out like that. She got knocked out by Dwyer, but Dwyer has a pretty good knockout. But that was from a knee as well. Miller doesn't really have a lot of impact in her punches, so I'm gonna go right here. I'm gonna go a decision here for Julian Miller. I think she's gonna be the more competitive. I think she's gonna make it really competitive. Where I think Ravena Oliveira is gonna struggle. I also think that her only way of winning this one is she gets to lock up and submits Julian Miller, which I don't see that happening. I'm gonna go with Julian Miller to win this fight by decision. Next up here, next fight in the bantamweight division, Miles Johns versus Jessie Rosas. If you guys do not know who Jessie Rosas is, he is actually the older brother of Browell Rosas Jr., who's also one of the best prospects at bantamweight as well. And to my surprise, he's the older brother. Browell Rosas Jr. only being 21, he being 23 years old. But I'm not sold on Jesse Rosas, guys. He had a decent submission win over this guy named Adam McGurk. Then got submitted by Keon Lewis, and Keon Lewis isn't really, when it comes to like fight like competition. I've not been really impressed by Keon Lewis. Then they go on a nice winning streak, win this fight in the Fury FC. But listen, he beat this guy named Luciano Ramos, who's all right. Then, but DB Eric Bruno, which he was definitely struggling. It was a 5-round fight, struggling a lot in that fight. And Miles Jones, on the other hand, I'm not really too so. I haven't really been too impressed by Miles Jones either. But went the distance with Cody Gibson. Cody Gibson definitely did give Abdul Hudson some trouble in his most previous fight. Um, Taking out DSDA, which was all right. Another veteran. Then losing to Felipe Lima, man. Felipe Lima, man, that's a good loss. Felipe Lima, a pretty big prospect. Um, John Matsumoto, pretty close fight. Could have gone either way. John Matsumoto, I know you said that robbery went over Berzak, but it was all right. Losing to Daniel Marcos, which I think that he just got cut, but I honestly think there was no real reason for him to cut Daniel Marcos. So yeah, Miles Jones, when it comes to competition, he's fought the better competition. Rose's only good win was against Eric Renault, whatever the heck this guy's name is, and this guy had a lot of experience. And this guy over here, Luciano Ramos, not he has a bunch of has he's fought a bunch of guys who have more losses than more wins, and possibly and also guys who don't really aren't really elite competition. And his grappling isn't really the greatest either. I was originally gonna go with Jesse Rosas because Miles Jones, to be very real, he's a pretty competitive fighter, but he's not that good of a fighter. He does get submitted pretty easily though, but like Jesse Rosas, man, I don't think his grappling is that good. And in fact, this man's dropping another 10 pounds just to fight this fight. And the thing is, I don't necessarily see this fight. I definitely see this fight going to be taking place at a catch weight because there's no way you can cut 10 pounds in about on a very short notice here. Listen, man, Jesse Roses, man, what I've seen, I'm not sold on him at all. I'm not too confident in this prediction, but I'm gonna go with I'm going I think Miles Jones gets a decision here. I think he's just the more craftier vet. I think he's gonna be the more explosive striker. I think he's gonna easily stuff those takedowns. Give me Miles Jones. I think Miles Jones is gonna get this one in the bag by decision. Next up here in the lightweight division, a pretty big banger. Um, we got Manuel Sousa versus Richie Miranda. I am sold on this fight. This fight is going to be a banger. Richie Miranda, man, for what I've seen from him on the original scene, coming from the LFA, beating Marcus Masaga, which is a pretty good win. Hugo Arizon, pretty decent, man. Richie Lewis, pretty good win. Isla Barza and Robert Varchecho. And his his previous opponents were both fighters who are undefeated, man. And for what I've seen from this guy, he's a good striker with a good grappling base. And a guy against like Sorzo, who came from won this fight in Bellator against Tim Wines, was pretty good. Losing to Archie Collin, who just got knocked out by Usman Nurmagomedov, legit last week as well. They went on a nice 3 fight winning streak, beating Lucas Boros. Got that fight in the contender series against Christian Perez, which I think he's getting another shot at the contender series, if I'm not mistaken. And then had a very big banger of a fight with Oki before he brutally knocked him out, which I predicted him to win this fight as well. Richie Miranda and Sorzo. One thing I've realized from both fighters is that both fighters are very good and explosive strikers here. And honestly, man, I've been going back and forth on who I'm actually going to pick this fight. Because one, Richie Miranda, I think he's a bit more of a technical striker. But how will he handle that power for 3 rounds against Manoel Sorza? He can definitely handle that power. Not going to lie. But I also think that Swords is just a dangerous guy, man. I definitely see him being big trouble for in the lightweight division. And yeah, he's just he's just a freaking freak of nature, bro. Monster and has a lot of power in his hands. He had like what, like two win. I think he had like two wins by decision, and 12 of those wins come by decision, if I'm not mistaken. So it's definitely a tough task here for Miranda, especially that Miranda's taking this fight on short. Well, both fighters taking this fight on short notice, but especially is that when you're fighting a guy on short notice who it's like a freaking truck like Sousa, it's kind of hard to not pick Sousa because Sousa is just so good, well rounded, and he has good grappling as well. I think a few things that Miranda needs to do prior to coming into this fight is that he needs to be very cautious on what he throws. He needs to kind of keep that distance in this fight because once Sousa kind of gets close, it's gonna be a struggle to keep him off him. That's why I think Miranda needs to start off this fight with the. I think he needs to land the takedowns here because he's a good grappler as well. Both fighters on the ground, I think, are both pretty good. I think Miranda is definitely a better, better when it comes to like technical submissions and stuff. So I think he needs to try and get this fight to the ground early. Because on the feet is definitely just gonna be I think definitely gonna be a big trouble, especially that power difference, man. He's gonna be landing head body shots, gonna be going for the head, gonna try and target you to knock you out. So Miranda kind of needs to do that, and also needs to affect his body early, landing those knees, trying to damage him with those elbows. I think he needs to try his best to try and just damage this man very early. Because even against Archie Colgan in that fight with him and Colgan, he kind of in that fight he kind of was getting hurt a lot in that fight, and that's what Colgan did to kind of get the win. And that's still a pretty big loss because Usman Nurmagomedov, man, I feel like at this point he should just be in the UFC. So it's just not. Yeah, he's lost some good competition. And the only time that Richie Miranda did lose a fight was back in 2020, April of 2023. So it's been 3 years since he lost, and he's been on a nice run ever since then. And that was a split decision, which could have gone either way. But who am I gonna be predicting to win this fight, man? It's kind of hard to go against Sousa, man. Sousa is just a monster, bro. I think he's gonna get a third round TKO, man. I think Miranda's definitely gonna do good early on in the fight. I think eventually he's just gonna get clipped very clean. I'm calling body shot here, guys. Give me Manoel Sousa to win this one by knockout. Next up here in the heavyweight division, Jose Montana versus Louie Sutherland. Now, I was originally going to go here with Jose Montana, but the more I look at this fight, this is honestly a tough fight to predict, man. Because Louie Sutherland, outside on the original scene, he was pretty good, beating Masulam dos Santos, Luke Newland or whatever this guy. Then got his UFC debut losing to Walter Walker, man. Nothing wrong with losing to Walter Walker. Walter Walker, man, just got his leg taken away and with the heel hook. Losing to Brando Perchik, man. There's nothing wrong losing to Brando Perchik. This guy's a monster as well, man. And Brando Perchik's definitely one of the next big things for this heavyweight division. Got his first win over Tai Tuivasa. Now, I know a lot of you guys did also kind of, call that a boring fight, which I get it though. But Louie Sutherland, man, that performance over Tai Tuivasa, man. Even though I know Tai Tuivasa was on a 6-fight losing streak, mind you, a lot of people were going with Tai Tuivasa to beat Louie Sutherland. Even I went with Louie Sutherland to beat Tai Tuivasa. I went with Tai Tuivasa to beat Louie Sutherland, which I kind of regret picking him, and I he couldn't be trusted, and yeah. But it was an impressive performance, man. You can call it boring, but I think that definitely stylistically, Louie Sutherland was playing it smart, kind of taking down Tai Tuivasa a lot in that fight, and that was very good because Tai Tuivasa, his grappling isn't necessarily the greatest, so he managed to found an advantage to beat Tai Tuivasa. But Jose Montana, I'm not so listen, man. I'm not sold on Jose Montana. He's had some pretty good knockouts on his resume, beating Cindy Arjo. Miss Ferreira here against Richard Jacoby. Not bad loss, but did get dominated pretty bad in that fight. Carlos Omar Jr., John Ribeiro, Bruno De Jesus. These are legit. Literally, these are legit names. ChatGPT would come up with, guys. And yeah, that fight with him and Richard Jacoby, which sounds like AI name as well. I'll let you know that right now. He kind of got it was kind of like that same way that kind of like Louis Sutherland beat Tai Tuivasa, man. On the feet, I definitely see Louis Sutherland getting clipped, man. And you guys may say, "Oh, Louis Sutherland's bad thing is definitely his chin." I wouldn't say it's the worst because getting knocked out by Brando Perchik isn't necessarily the worst either, especially when you're in a division. It's called heavyweight division. There's a lot of big guys, and freaking Brandon Perchik is huge, bro. He's kind of big, kind of jacked a little bit. Does it very have a lot of power in his hands? So I can't really say, and that was a bad loss for Louis Sutherland. And I also predicted Brandon Perchik to knock him out, and I figured out what was gonna happen. But honestly, man, listen, man. Do I think Louis Sutherland's gonna be like the top of the division? No, but I think definitely that Tai Tuivasa win was definitely good. And Tai Tuivasa has a lot of experience with the top tier dudes. And listen, man, I know originally he did take that fight on short notice, which that was actually pretty good. That was actually pretty smart of him to take that fight on short notice because I thought that it was kind of bad. I thought we were finally going to see Tai Tuivasa lose that losing streak, which unfortunately didn't happen. And Louis Sutherland pulled the upset, bro. I thought that was a major upset right there. Even though I know it was like kind of hard to trust Tai Tuivasa, but the fact is that a lot of people, for once, were going for with Tai Tuivasa for a very long time. So that was a very good performance there. And Jesus Montana, man, like I said, I'm not sold on this guy, man. This guy is all right, and I don't think his grappling isn't the greatest. I definitely see him getting taken down by Louis Sutherland a lot. My only way I really see Jesus Montana really winning this fight is if he knocks out Louis Sutherland, which I have a hard time doing that. I have a hard time believing that he's gonna knock him out. I'm actually gonna go submission. I think he's gonna get like a. I'm gonna go actually submission here towards the third round here for Louis Sutherland. I think that grappling is gonna be way too much here for Jesus Montana. I think eventually he's gonna tap out. Give me Louis Sutherland. I think he's gonna win this one. I'm going by submission, and it may sound wild, but yeah, give me Louis Sutherland by submission. Next up, we got up here is Diyar Nurgozhay versus Bruno Lopes. Now, I like this fight a lot, actually. This is actually a pretty interesting fight. Bruno Lopes, man, coming into the UFC, he was a pretty decent fighter in the LFA, beating Marcus Bagaro. Won the contenders fight against Mileki Zahigny. Won his debut, which I thought he was against Magomed Danasulorov. They lost against Dustin Jacoby, which Dustin Jacoby just lost to Muhammad Saeed. And most recently losing to Navajo Sterling, which we just seen him knock out Jan Blachowicz last week. Diyar is a pretty decent fighter outside of the UFC, beating Emmanuel Sardi. Won his contenders fight against Barzi. His first two fights didn't really go as planned, where he lost to Brenson Ribeiro. Losing to Uren, and then getting his first win over Rafael Tabas, which very surprised that he actually won this fight. I expected Tabas to actually lose this fight right here. Tabas to win this fight, and I got that wrong. Man. He looked pretty good in that fight with the grappling exchanges. Definitely did very good in this fight against a guy like Bruno Lopes, man. Bruno Lopes was giving Navajo Sterling a lot of trouble in that fight with that grappling. Listen, he was getting dominated, but when he was landing the takedowns on on Navajo Sterling, he was giving Navajo Sterling some trouble, which kind of figured was gonna happen because Navajo Sterling, when it comes to his grappling absolutely sucks. Um, yeah, Bruno Lopes, man, he's just a decent fighter overall. He kind of has like a bit of a decent. He's a decent striker, not really the most fundamental striker, not the most skilled striker. He has good jiu-jitsu, does know how to stuff it, definitely know how to set up those takedowns very well. Against Darren, man, he's pretty big, man, and he also knows how to land takedowns. I know he got submitted by Uran and Brenson Ribeiro, but those are actually pretty two good grapplers as well. Uran, I think he's definitely a pretty good grappler, and so is Brenson Ribeiro, man. Both fighters are actually pretty well-rounded grapplers, man. And I have a tough time going with Bruno Lopes here. I think it's just tough not to pick Dara. I think Dara is going to win a pretty. I think he's going to win like a 30-27 decision. I just think that Bruno Lopes is going to get taken down all night from Daria. I think Daria is just going to be the more. Is going to be the stronger wrestler in this fight. I just don't see Bruno Lopes really having much success coming into this fight. Give me Dario to win this one by decision. Next up here in the heavyweight division, Steven Asplund versus Guilherme Pat. Now, listen, man, I know a lot of you guys are going to go with Steven Asplund. I'm not mad at that, but this is a banger fight. Guilherme Pat, man, on the original scene, looked like a pretty decent prospect. Did all right. Won this fight in the LFA. Got his UFC debut against Alan Fry Jr., who just, which is all right. Then lost his fight to Thomas Peterson, which I predicted Guilherme Pat to win, which is a pretty good fight again with Thomas Peterson. But, I kind of arguably regret picking Guilherme Pat to win that fight. Steven Asplund, man, he's a pretty good fighter on the original scene in the LFA, beating Hammer, Montanha, Raiden, Kovics. Won his DSW fight. I think it was like 40 seconds against Anthony Garcia. Winning his debut against Sean Shafarov, which is all right. Sean Shafarov isn't really, technically one of the best fighters in the UFC. Lost his fight right here, which was actually a very close fight, which could have gone either way against Victor Penrino. And this thing, that was pretty big because Victor Penrino, man, a lot of people thought he was going to submit him. Even I did. I thought that, Steven Asplund, took that fight on short notice after Kenny Nakachino pulled out of that fight. But I just thought that he was going into danger because on the feet he definitely was going to give him trouble. But I just also thought that that grappling was going to be too much. Steven Asplund isn't necessarily the greatest grappler when it comes to mine, but I also think that Victor Penrino just wasn't able to take him down because also he makes not Steven Asplund not be the most jacked guy in the division. He may seem a little bit cringy though, but one thing that he will do is that he will put on a fight, and he's also pretty big too. He's pretty, I feel like also it's kind of in the heavyweight division, also kind of a cheat code to kind of be a little bit fat, because you still when you punch somebody in the body, it's kind of hard for you to drop them because they got all that that fat where it leads you to most likely not get knocked out. I'm not saying that Steven Asplund's fat or not, but Steven Asplund, man, he's a very good explosive striker, and I was very impressed from that performance against Sean Shafarov. Even though I know Sean Shafarov, like I said, isn't the greatest fighter, but for a debut, man, he for 2 rounds straight put it on a violent, brutal action against Guilherme Pat, who Guilherme Pat just gave Thomas Peterson some trouble, which I know Thomas Peterson just lost to to Walter Walker, but we all knew that Thomas Peterson was going to lose against Walter Walker. We all know dang well he was not winning that fight. But his fight with Alan Fry Jr., man, he was pretty impressive, and I can definitely see Guilherme Pat definitely landing some takedowns on here. I also think that Thomas Peterson is a pretty good wrestler as well. Before even coming into the fight with Walter Walker. And some people got to realize that, we just lost to Thomas Peterson, who just lost to Walter Walker. Guilherme Pat is not on Walter Walker's level whatsoever. So, there's no reason. I feel like there's no reason why you should be, people that those type of conversations should be coming up. Well, honestly, man, it's a pretty close fight, but I'm going to go ahead. I'm actually going to go Steven Asplund, man. I'm going first round knockout here, man. I just think that he's just going to land a bunch of shots that I don't think Guilherme Pat is just really going to handle like that. I think Steven Asplund, I think he's a future world champion as well. One of my favorite prospects in the heavyweight division. I think he's just a very good, explosive striker. And listen, man, I know he lost to Denzel Freeman a lot of years back, which Denzel Freeman doesn't look like one of the best fighters. But, it's because of the grappling, man. I don't think Guilherme Pat is going to have much success against Denzel Freeman. I think that Steven Asplund is going to get the job done here. Give me Steven Asplund to win this one by knockout. Next up, opener on the main card here. One of my favorite prospects in the UFC right now. Ty Miller facing Billy Ray Goff, if I even said that correctly. Now, I like as a second fight in the UFC for Ty Miller. I'm very excited for this fight. Billy Ray Goff on the original scene, he was pretty good. Justin Summers won his contender series fight, whatever. Made his debut being Yusaki uh, Nigushi, uh, Nigushita, which was all right. Yusaku was really not that good of a fighter and got cut from the UFC. Losing to Trey Waters. Now, listen, you're losing to Trey Waters, bro. Like it's in the name. He's Trey Waters, bro. Really? Ramazan Burmaja, which both fighters are legit cans. So I'm not too. So listen, man. I'm not too high on Billy Ray Goff at all, man. I never was, man. Even when he first came into the UFC, I'm like, this is honestly just a weird signing. And it was from the Contender Series fight where he signed, which was a pretty impressive performance. And against Yusaku, which was pretty good, but like I feel like his only good performance was his Contender Series fight because Yusaku isn't, obviously that knockout was brutal. I'm gonna admit that. But like Yusaku's not that good of a fighter, and you're losing to legit cans. Trey Waters, like I said, not that good. Ty Miller, man, I'm sold on him, man. He looked very good outside on the original scene, coming from the LFA, where he had this very big knockout punch right here. Got his contender series fight against Jimmy Drago, which I think was a pretty good fight. I think he definitely won all 3 rounds, but it was a pretty competitive fight. And then, got his first win in the UFC over Adam Fugit, and which I predicted him to knock him out in the first round. Figured as much. But, if you do look back at that fight, he did struggle a little bit. But Adam Fugit definitely was playing it smart, though. I said in my prediction video where I think Ty Miller definitely, if Adam Fugit was on point, setting up those boxing combinations, setting up that body kick, right southpaw kick that he's very good with. He could definitely give Ty Miller some trouble, and that's exactly what he did, man. And Ty Miller definitely did struggle a little bit throughout that first round, but yet again, Adam Fugit definitely did a pretty good job and was definitely locked in and trying to win that fight. Unfortunately, Ty Miller just managed to knock him out. I think it was in the last second, if I'm not mistaken, which was honestly, in my opinion, just very impressive. No, it wasn't in the last second, but managed to knock him out. Yeah, so managed to knock out Adam Fugit in the Adam Fugit in the last second, which was honestly very impressive. I'm gonna go Ty Miller on this one, guys. I think he's gonna get a second round knockout here. I think Billy Ray Goff is gonna manage to survive that first round, but I'm just not. I just don't see Billy Ray Goff really having much success against a guy like Ty Miller. Listen. Honestly, I think it's gonna be a pretty competitive fight. And honestly, man, the UFC just doing what they do with every single prospect. Just build them up with fighters who are decent fighter. And Billy Ray Goff, like I definitely can see him giving him some trouble because knowing that Ty Miller is still quite young, and Billy Ray Goff definitely has the more experience in the UFC and more experience in MMA and just in general. But I just don't really see him really having much success in this fight. Um, so give me Ty Miller by knockout. Next up here in the women's strawweight division, Amanda Lemos versus Alexia Thainara. This is a pretty good step up in competition for Thainara. It gets a veteran like Amanda Lemos. Thainara, man, I'm very sold on Thainara. Thainara, man, outside of the UFC, she's looking pretty good against Sousa. Winning her debut against Rosas Concesios. Won her debut against Molly McCann, which I know Molly McCann down to a boxing. That's a pretty good loss right there. I'm winning right there. Beat Luke Boomy, which you just lost to Jocelyn Omar. And then, won her fight against Bruno Brazil, who just got cut from the UFC. Her 3 fights in the UFC are definitely very impressive. And I definitely see Amanda Lemos giving her some trouble in this fight. Amanda Lemos, man, her last 5 fights, she beat Mackenzie Dern, the current world champion right now. Lost to Verna Janjaroba, one of the top contenders in that weight class, beating Ismael Lucidino, which she just got caught for steroids, I think. Then losing Tatiana Suarez, getting out grappled by Tatiana Suarez, but Tatiana Suarez is a very good grappler. Then, most recently getting out grappled by Jillian Robertson, who's going to be fighting for the world title against Mackenzie Dern. So Amanda Lemos has fought very good competition. like from beating a current world champion and then to losing to some of the top contenders in the weight class. I definitely see it's going to be a lot of trouble. But for what I've realized from her most recently two fights with Tatiana Suarez and Verna Jandiroba is that her grappling is really not that good, man. She managed to land a few good shots on Tatiana Suarez on the feet, but yet again, Tatiana Suarez is just very hittable and isn't the greatest when it comes to striking. And but she had no success in that fight with Jillian Robertson, which I thought she was gonna have. I predicted her to lose this fight. Yeah, I know, but I thought she was gonna at least have some success coming into this fight. I didn't think she was gonna get out grappled like that. I thought she was gonna lose it 30-27 all three rounds though. But I thought she was at least gonna land some good shots that would have definitely had rocked Jillian Robertson. But she barely even landed any shots. It was just she just got whooped. It was BTA, guys. Very bad. And I also think Alexia Thainara could definitely take her down. But the thing is, also, I have a problem with that is that, she managed to choke out Molly McCann, but Molly McCann's grappling is solid. She couldn't submit Luma. She couldn't submit Brazil. Her grappling, I definitely think, still has some questions that still needs to be answered. I think we're definitely gonna. I think this fight is gonna be a big test for Tyrone and to see, is she ready for the top? Is Tyrone ready for the top, or or will she still need some time? This is very interesting, but it's also very concerning because Amanda Lemos almost beating 40 years old, been in this game for quite some time. But I definitely um the way I definitely see it, Amanda Lemos definitely winning this fight. If she could definitely keep this fight on the feet and definitely try and be very explosive with the knock and try and get that knockout coming into this fight is one way I could definitely see Amanda Lemos beating Alexa Tyrana and I think on the feet I definitely think that Tatsara is definitely a very good I think she's a good striker as well, but it's also a risky move kind of grapple and kind of striking with Amanda Lemos because Amanda Lemos has a lot of power in her hands. And I think she could definitely knock out Thainara if Thainara isn't careful enough on the feet. I think if I was Tyrana and I'm trying to get this fight on the feet, I would just try. I would just at range just kick the heck out of Amanda Lemos. If I was Tyrana, that's what Tyrana should do. She should try and if she can't land a takedown, she should try to use that jab and kind of just land those big head kick and kind of just keep her use that front kick and kind of just keep Amanda Lemos off her, which I definitely could see Tyrana doing. I definitely see her moving around a lot and. Man, I definitely could see her having Amanda miss majority of her shots because Amanda she's just kind of an explosive striker who kind of moves forward, which makes her very easy to take down. But I'm gonna go ahead. I'm gonna favor Tyrana here. I think she's gonna get a decision over Amanda Lemos. I think she's gonna get. I think Lemos is going to get dominated. I think the grappling is going to be too much. I think even on the feet, I definitely could see Amanda Thainara beating the more technical fighter on the feet here. Yeah, I'm going to go with Thainara to win this one by a decision. Next up here is Darren Elkins versus Yadier Del Valle. Now, listen, I know a lot of you guys. I think Yadier Del Valle is the biggest favorite on this card, but I feel like you guys kind of underestimate what Darren Elkins can do. And I'm not super high on Yadier Del Valle. Yadier Del Valle, outside of the UFC, looking like a pretty good prospect in the Fury UFC. Got that contender series fight where he won a unanimous decision. Made his debut against Connor Matthews. Connor Matthews isn't really that good. Um, Beating Isaac Diyar, which I think was a pretty decent win. But got a big fight with Jordan Levitt, which I did predict him to win. But knowing that Jordan Levitt just got submitted in the first round by Jorson Berto, and I know Jorson Berto is a pretty big prospect as well. But I feel like Yander Del Val was kind of this hype Cuban prospect. But I'm not too sold. Listen, I'm not too sold on Yander Del Val, and I know I've been saying that a lot with these prospects and these upcoming fighters, but I'm just not, man. And I definitely see Darren Elkins giving this guy some problems, bro. His last 5 fights, he beat this Christian Canelli guy, lost Jonathan Pierce, which may not seem like the best look. Went on a 2 fight winning streak, beating T.J. Brown, Daniel Pineda. Most recently, lost to Julian and Rosas a year back. I know Darren Elkins. The thing is, I have a problem here is that Darren Elkins hasn't been very active as of recently. Darren Elkins kind of, it's been a whole year since he's fought. A whole year and 3 years and 3 months. And Julian Rosa just, Julian Rosa just got knocked out by Lara Douglas, so he's pretty active as well. So, and some of these fighters on this card, mainly this fight and the upcoming fight, a lot of these fighters are just low key, kind of inactive. So that's just the problem here I had coming into this fight. And Yander Del Val, man, I know a lot. I think, not just because he lost his O, is that who he lost. So Jordan Levitt, man, I thought he was gonna have a pretty competitive fight with George Humberto, and that didn't end up going well at all. So I kind of really don't know what I really think of Yander Del Val after seeing that Jordan Levitt fight, and I already knew that Yander Del Val was a bit overrated before that Jordan Levitt loss. To be very real, because I'm like, dude, this guy, he's a good striker, but he's gonna get out grappled eventually, and that's exactly what happened against Jordan Levitt, man. He got out grappled, got out striked, man. Just wasn't his night. And I definitely think it's a good competition for him because, Darren Elkins, being, I still kind of don't know why Darren Elkins is still fighting. Listen, Darren Elkins can do what he wants, man. I think he's definitely going to give Yannick loads of trouble in this fight, man. And I know a lot of you guys think, oh, he's going to knock this guy out in the first round. That's not guaranteed, bro. That really isn't, man. Because I know he's got knocked out plenty of times before. He got knocked out by Julian Rosas, but Julian Rosas also a pretty good vet. I think he's gonna give a lot of these prospects a tough time if Darren Elkins is choosing to stay. This guy's being 42 years old, and I kind of expected this fight to go on the Scartamento card because knowing that Darren Elkins is from Scartamento, so I kind of expected him to fight on the Scartamento card. But a few ways I see Yander Del Val winning this fight is that he has to be very explosive coming into this fight. Cause knowing he is he is the shorter fighter in this fight, so I think he definitely needs to try and pressure Darren Elkins early if he's trying to get a first round knockout. And also keep that high and don't be open for takedowns. Darren Elkins, if he just looks back at the tape with Jordan Levitt, like, oh, I just need to try and take him down. I think that Yander Del Val's wrestling isn't necessarily the greatest. And I definitely see that's where Darren Elkins having the trouble, giving him the trouble, and also because Darren Elkins is the longer rager fighter, and he's more experienced as a UFC fighter. Um, who am I gonna go to win here? I'm going Del Val. I think he's gonna win the decision, and I don't see him knocking out Darren Elkins at all. But I definitely think that Darren Elkins could definitely have a little bit of ring rust because we all know that ring rust is for real. You can ask D-Raw. D-Raw just got knocked out. Ring had ring rust where he just got knocked out in 30 seconds by Eurosmedic, which kind of expected that to happen. So give me Yander Del Val by decision. Next up here in the lightweight division, co-main event, Billy Quarantillo versus Diego Ferreira. Now, honestly, I like this fight. And honestly, man, you guys can say there's a bunch of fighters that could be co-main event. I think this is definitely a co-main event, especially for it's a good co-main event, especially for an Apex card. Diego Ferreira, man, and Billy Quantillo, man, they haven't been looking pretty good as of recently. Diego Ferreira, man, he lost to Mateusz Gamrot, who's fighting in this main event. Beating Michael Johnson, who just lost to Drew Doper. Matthias Robeshki, who just beat Copper Polic last week. Lost to Grant Dawson, not bad. Honestly, man, I'm kind of shocked that Diego Ferreira did lose his fight. Then, got knocked out by Alexander Hernandez, which was, whatever. Billy Quarantillo, man, he's very. One thing I realized is that Billy Quarantillo is just very inactive. He, did beat Alexander Hernandez. Lost to Edson Barboza. Beat Damon Jackson, which was a pretty good win. They lost to Yusuf Zalal. Then most recently, not most recently, like about a year, almost like legit a year and a half ago, losing to Cub Swanson, which was a banger fight. But he hasn't fought in a while, and I know Cub Swanson just retired. So both fighters, are vets. Um, Billy Quantilla being nearly almost 38 years old. Diego Ferreira, 41 years old, going to be in like 6 months going to be 42 years old. So both fighters are very old and crafty veterans, and I like this fight. I like when what the matchmakers that the UFC makes when they make matchups where two fighters who are old, out of their prime, veterans of the sport, and they have them fight each other. Like those be good matchups, low key though, because it's like, oh, they're two veterans of the sport. We just gotta find out who's gonna be the better fighter and who's gonna be the smarter fighter and who's gonna get the decision or the knockout. And Billy Quantilla, man, we don't know what Billy Quantilla has been doing for the past year at all. And we kind of didn't know the same thing for Cub Swanson until Cub Swanson, was said to fight Nate Landwehr where he knocked him out. But Diego Ferreira, man, at least he's active, man. Last fight, was 10 months ago, but back in September, Grant Dawson in January last year. So he fought fight twice in 1 year, but Diego Ferreira isn't really the most active fighter either. I remember originally he was supposed to fight not he was supposed to fight Bobby Green on the UFC 317 card, but Bobby Green pulled out. I think he got injured. So then yeah, but Diego Ferreira is more active. Billy hasn't really been the most active fighter as of recently at all. And for that particular reason, I'm going to go with Diego Ferreira. I think Diego Ferreira is going to knock him out. Listen, Diego Ferreira can't really be trusted at all. Neither can Billy Quantilla. You got two. This is the thing. UFC fighters are having two fighters who, can't be trusted at all in their fights. Somebody's going to get knocked out in this fight. And don't sleep on this fight, guys. This fight is going to be an absolute banger. Fight could go either way. I think that Diego Ferreira has been a little more active. I think he's definitely the harder hitter. I think at this point, Billy Quantilla moving up to 155 at this point of his career, I think it's definitely going to be a bad match for him. I think Billy Quantilla needs to try and put the heavy pressure on Diego Ferreira coming into this fight. Diego Ferreira needs to, just throw heavily, try and find that knockout here. This is going to be a back-to-back brawl, and I think this could be fight of the night. But I think somebody's going to get put to sleep, and I'm going with Diego Ferreira by knockout. Next up here is our main event of the evening: Mateusz Gamrot versus Quillan Salkilld. Now, this fight is going to be an absolute banger. Quillan Salkilld being one of the hottest prospects in the UFC. Looking at his last 5 fights, he beat Anshul Jublin, won the decision over Yanil Asmars, beating Nasharai with that nasty head kick, beating Jamie Malarski by submission, most recently taking out Beneil Dariush, which was pretty impressive. And then we look at Mateusz Gamrot's last 5 fights. He beat RDA, Rafael dos Santos, which was a pretty good fight. Losing to Dan Hooker. Right after that, destroying Ludovic Clan. Losing to Charles Oliveira. Then most recently taking out Rafael Esteban Rigovic, which I predicted him to win this fight, man. Listen, man, I feel like a lot of you guys are just disrespecting Mateusz Gamrot, guys. Because listen, man, I'm a fan of Quillan Salkilld, but like just because this guy submitted a guy like Jamie Malarski does not mean he's not a good jiu-jitsu. Jamie Malarski is not a better grappler than Mateusz Gamrot. And matter of fact, I want to look this fight with Beneil Dariush, man. I wasn't impressed by that fight either, man. until the knockout, bro. This man got dropped by Beneil Dariush early, which I know Beneil Dariush has experience, but he was also getting out grappled by Beneil Dariush as well. And I know Quillan Salkilld, before you guys are gonna be like, oh, didn't Beneil Dariush beat Mateusz Gamrot? But that was a pretty you guys don't know, that was a pretty competitive fight, and you guys also gotta realize that was prime Beneil Dariush. Prime Beneil Dariush. Mind you, I would get it if Beneil Dariush was like, if this was like, prime Beneil Dariush, and he was like, oh, he got out grappled by Beneil Dariush, got dropped by him, so what? When he passed prime Beneil Dariush, man, BSD managed to knock this guy out in 16 seconds, bro. I expected Quillan Salkilld to do a lot better in that fight. Listen, it's one thing to get out grappled by Beneil Dariush, but it's one thing to get dropped by an old Beneil Dariush, man. It's just one thing, bro. And the thing is, man, I know Mateusz Gamrot, if we look back at the fight with Dan Hooker, Dan Hooker was long, ragey, managed to just start the takedowns, but you also got to realize that, too. Like, Dan Hooker, Mateusz Gamrot was striking with Dan Hooker that entire time, man. And, listen, man, if you guys say, oh, look at that Charles Oliveira fight, I swear, if somebody says that, you're a casual. Because, like, Charles Oliveira would submit Mateusz Gamrot in a round. He managed to stuff some of the takedowns. He managed to reverse. And listen, he's already taken out 2 prospects already. Ludovic Klein, who just lost to Tovi Musayev. Esteban Rigovic, who's going to fight Edson Barboza. Listen, I don't want to hear you guys say, oh, getting out grappled by Charles Oliveira, we're going to go with Quillan Salkilld. Quillan Salkild's grappling isn't the greatest. It really isn't, man. Because, like, even in that fight with Janelle, he was getting taken down, out grappled a little bit throughout that fight with Quillan Salkilld. Throughout that fight. And listen, man, I think Quillan Salkilld is definitely going to be a big prospect. And if he definitely gets a win over Mateusz Gamrot, it gets him in the top 5, and he's probably one of the biggest stars in the sport right now. But listen, man, you guys may hate me for this, y'all. Quillan Salkilld fans may hate me for this. But, we going with Gamrot. We going submission. 4th round, man. I think those first 3 rounds could definitely be a big struggle for Mateusz Gamrot. I think those could be the close rounds. I think Quillan Salkilld is just going to eventually gas, bro. Because, listen, he's never been in a 5-round fight. Mateusz Gamrot, man, you guys got to put some respect. Listen, man, I want those Mateusz Gamrot fans to rise up, man. Show these Quillan Salkilld people what's up, bro. Because Mateusz Gamrot, man, I think it's going to be a close fight. I think Mateusz Gamrot can definitely strike with Quillan Salkilld. Hopefully not the entire time. But you guys got to put some respect on this guy's name. This man out-grappled Arman Tsarukyan. And not one, but out-grappled Arman Tsarukyan. And you guys think that Quillan Salkilld is going to win. I don't think so, man. I think he's going to definitely have some success on the feet. He can definitely stuff some of the takedowns, but I think he could definitely get out-grappled. I think he's definitely going to struggle. I'm going Mateusz Gamrot by submission. But, hey, guys, that's going to be the end of the video here, guys. I appreciate all you guys watching. Make sure you guys hit that like and subscribe button. Turn on notifications when you guys want to see when I upload new videos. Comment down below who you guys got winning for this fight. And, yeah. I think got 137 subscribers. I appreciate all y'all guys for subscribing. And y'all see y'all on the next one. I'm out. Peace.